Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a totally fascinating historical text about the early church. We're going to discover how an ancient, highly charged conflict over religious rules radically reshaped our entire understanding of faith. It's this incredible story of culture clashes, intense debates, and a profound theological shift that, honestly, still echoes today. So let's just dive right in with a big, provocative question that threatened to completely tear the earliest believers apart. Does salvation require a change of religion? I mean, it sounds like a very modern debate, right? But as our source text reveals, this exact dilemma caused a massive existential crisis in the first century church. Which brings us to part one, the early church controversy. We are dropping right into the middle of a massive shouting match. See, the very first followers of Jesus were entirely Jewish. They kept their customs, followed their rites, and saw absolutely no contradiction in their cultural identity. But then the movement just exploded, and non-Jewish people, pagans, began joining what was, up until that exact moment, an exclusively Jewish community. Listen to the intense division of the time. One side is literally shouting, "Of course, they need to become like us. If God is to accept them, they need to become Jews." While the other side is firing right back, "No, it is a matter of faith, and religion has nothing to do with this." It's a monumental clash over whether new believers had to adopt a specific culture and set of religious rites just to be saved. Out of all this chaos, two totally opposing camps emerge. It's kind of like a theological tug of war. On one side, you have the Pharisee party. They firmly believed that salvation absolutely required circumcision and strictly keeping the laws of Moses. In their eyes, you literally had to convert, changing your entire identity from a pagan to a Jew. On the other side, you've got Paul and Barnabas' camp, arguing forcefully that salvation is by faith alone. To them, pagans absolutely do not need to convert to the Jewish religion. Let's move into part two, Peter and the pagans. To see how this debate actually gets settled, we have to look at this wild sequence of events involving the Apostle Peter and a pagan named Cornelius, who happened to be a high-ranking Roman centurion. It plays out like this. Event 1. Peter has this shocking vision where God tells him, "What I have called clean, do not call unclean." Event 2. Literally right after waking up, men sent by Cornelius arrive to summon him. Event 3. Peter breaks strict Jewish custom by actually entering a Gentile home, which, let me tell you, was a massive culture shock at the time. And finally, Event 4. The sign. As Peter is speaking, the Holy Spirit falls on the pagans, and they begin speaking in tongues. This sign was the game changer. It proved to Peter that God did not discriminate. He accepted them simply through faith. All right, part 3, the Jerusalem verdict. So Paul, Barnabas, and now Peter bring all this undeniable evidence to the table about what was happening among the pagans. The church leaders gather in Jerusalem, and they have to make a final authoritative ruling that's going to determine the entire future trajectory of this movement. James delivers the ultimate verdict. He says, "It is my judgment, therefore, that we should not make it difficult for the Gentiles who are turning to God." According to our text, this profound statement established that the church should absolutely not put the heavy, frankly impossible yoke of religious laws onto the necks of new Gentile believers. They send a letter to the new believers, and get this, it's an incredibly short list of minimal requirements. Abstain from food sacrificed to idols, abstain from eating blood, abstain from the meat of strangled animals, and abstain from sexual immorality. That's it, the whole shebang. They completely stripped away the entire massive weight of the complex laws of Moses, leaving just these 4 things. Talk about cutting through the right tape. But here is a really fascinating twist. Even this incredibly short list was heavily influenced by the culture of the day. Later on, Paul clarified that eating market food previously offered to idols was actually fine because, well, idols have no real power. The Jewish leaders were just so deeply ingrained in their own culture that they included some dietary rules. So actually, scratch the food stuff. When you reduce it down, the true core requirement for following Christ was simply avoiding sexual immorality. Moving on to part 4. Lessons on grace. So, what's the big takeaway from this ancient ruling? It brilliantly defines true grace. Grace isn't just the central point of the gospel. The text argues it is the gospel. It means receiving God's favor without having to do or try to be anything to earn it. Grace means Jesus is the builder of the church, and there are literally 0 religious hoops you must jump through to win God's favor. The source text asks this bluntly. Do we deserve God's mercy? It reminds us that true grace is extreme. It's given freely because we desperately need it, not because of our race, not because of our culture, and certainly not because of our own goodness. It is a completely 100% unearned gift.
To make sure we aren't repeating the mistakes of the past, we need to follow 3 crucial steps outlined in the text. Step 1. Recognize that God desires a people from all peoples. He actively jumps over cultural barriers. Step 2. We must remove any conditions or obstacles that test God by making it hard for people to come to Him. And step 3. Accept that grace is received entirely freely through faith in the finished work of Jesus.
And that brings us to our final section, the modern religion trap. So, how exactly does this ancient conflict map onto our modern world? Well, think of it like this. In the past conflict, the dominant religion was Judaism, and the outward issue they fought over was circumcision. In the modern conflict, the dominant religion is Christianity, and the outward issue is conversion to a brand new religion. The window dressing has changed for sure, but the trap of insisting on a fundamental change of religion remains exactly the same. The author gives a pretty stark warning here. Demanding that a new believer leave their culture to pick up a new religious institution makes the focus the institution itself rather than God's kingdom. By forcing them to adopt a new religious culture, we're actually removing them from the very world they are meant to impact. Religion, the text argues, can never, ever accomplish what pure faith does. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to chew on. Are we putting an unnecessary yoke on new believers by demanding they change their religion instead of simply offering them grace? It's a powerful question that challenges us to recognize the profound difference between adopting a religious institution and embracing true unearned grace. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this fascinating historical material. Keep questioning and keep learning.